Good to see you. Welcome back to Junior Church Live. I'm Stephen, and we only have 6 days until Resurrection Sunday. In Matthew 21, Jesus went to the temple, and while he was teaching, the chief priests and elders came and they started giving him a hard time. During their conversation, Jesus told a parable, and that's what I want to look at today and see if we can learn a few things to help us. Now, it was about a certain man that had 2 sons. Now, Jesus starts the story in Matthew 21 and verse number 28, and he says, "But what think ye? A certain man had 2 sons, and he came to the first and said, Son, go work today in my vineyard." Now, a vineyard was a large field where they would grow grapes, and there was a lot of work that needed to be done to make sure everything ran smoothly. Now, it appears like both sons were living at home, and it was part of their responsibility to help out in the vineyard so that they could help provide for the household and help provide for themselves and stuff like that. First lesson we can see is working hard is a good thing. In fact, just like we eat every day, we really need to work hard every day. In 2 Thessalonians 3:10, it says that if any man would not work, neither should he eat. Now, it's important to note he is not talking about people that can't work, but he's talking about people that can work and simply choose not to. Whether it's cleaning or organizing or doing the dishes or chopping the firewood or working on a project or building something, we should work hard and do our best. Now, we should value the work that we get to do, especially with our parents. First, because we get to spend time with them, and time is a really precious thing. Second, because everything we learn, we're going to use later in life. Now, no one should be afraid of hard work. I mean, especially us young people. Next, we see that the son responded in not a very good way. He answered and said, "I will not." But afterward, he repented and went. The Bible doesn't tell us why the first son refused to go work in the father's field, but later he thought about it and he decided, I was wrong. And he humbled himself and he went back to the field and he worked and did what his father said. The second lesson we can learn is that our first reaction is probably the wrong reaction. See, in Proverbs 18:13 it says, "He that answereth the matter before he heareth it, it is a folly and a shame unto him." Sometimes we get mad or angry and we don't even know all the details. Like, we just think we know all the details. But the reality is we don't. So we make a decision and then we find out later, oh, I was wrong. And then we make a choice and we say, oh, that was the wrong choice. See, it'd be much better if we listened first, and then once we had all the facts, we could make the right decision or give the best answer. This son gave the bad answer, but then later he realized that he was wrong and he did the right thing. He humbled himself and he went back and he worked in his father's field. The second son also responded wrongly, but here's how he did it. In verse 30 it says, "And he came to the second and said likewise. And he answered and said, I go, sir, and went not." The third lesson we can learn is that we should not just say something because we think it's what people want to hear. For whatever reason, this son told his dad, "Yes, I'm gonna go do it." And then he didn't do it. See, maybe it was because he was being lazy, or maybe it was because he was dinking around and he just never got around to it. Or maybe he just never intended to go work in the field at all and he just straight up lied to his dad. But either way, we can learn and see that this is not a way that we should ever act like. This isn't good. Jesus closes by asking a final question. "Whither of them twain did the will of his father?" They said unto him, "The first." See, the first son answered his father wrong, but then realized that he had sinned. He humbled himself, and he went and did what his father asked. In the end, he did what was right. The second son, however, answered the father with the right words, "I'll go," but then he never went and did the work in the field. See, it might have been because he was proud. I gave the right answer, but he didn't go. And maybe that was because he was lazy. I don't know. But in the end, he ended up doing the wrong thing on both parts because he lied and then he didn't go work in the field. Let's do a quick recap so that we can make sure that you're not completely lost. The first lesson we can learn is that it's a good thing to work. In fact, we were created to work, whether it's at home or abroad, whether you're a boy or a girl. The second lesson we can learn is that our first reaction is usually the wrong reaction. The third lesson we can learn is we should not just say something because that's what we think people want to hear. Now let's ask ourselves a few questions, okay? First of all, which son do we act like more? The first or the second? Do we often respond wrong because we aren't patient and we don't get the whole story, and so we answer before we get all the details? Do we just say what people want to hear instead of being truthful and honest with them? Then we learned that we need to listen before we speak. We need to give an honest answer, and we need to work hard. And that when we respond to something and we do it in a wrong way, we need to let God show us that we were wrong. Then we need to humble ourselves and we need to go ask for forgiveness. And then we need to do what we were asked to do with a good attitude, like we were doing it for Jesus, because after all, that's what the Bible teaches. I'm Stephen, and let's count down together to Resurrection Sunday. We have 6 days to go, and I look forward to seeing you here tomorrow.